It started with the silence. Not the kind that creeps in during an argument or the quiet that settles between two people who've run out of things to say. This silence was sharper, surgical. It didn't sneak in, it arrived like a guest who already had a key. It carved out the air in the house. Made everything feel cold even in July. She told me about the retreat in May. Not asked, told. It was already decided, booked, confirmed. She'd be gone 8 weeks. A place tucked in the woods somewhere in Oregon. For writers who need space to dig deep, she said while chewing a piece of gum she'd been working it like it wronged her. I remember the way she said space like she was tasting the word for the first time. I didn't like it. She started packing 2 weeks early. Bought all new clothes, most of which didn't scream quiet solitude and novel writing to me. I kept watching her fold those sleeveless tops and new boots into the suitcase with a kind of giddy precision like she was gearing up for something thrilling. I asked her why the sudden makeover. She told me the old stuff made her feel blocked. That word again. Space. Blocked. Her vocabulary started to change. Mine didn't. We didn't talk much those last 2 weeks. She was always busy, always tired. She slept with her phone under her pillow. Took it with her to the shower. I told myself not to dig. But you can only lie to your gut for so long. She left on a Thursday morning. No kiss. Just a slap on my chest and a don't forget to water the snake plant. I watched her Uber disappear down the street. She didn't look back. At first, I tried to be normal. Cooked dinner for one. Took long walks with her dog. Checked my phone too much. Told myself she needed this time. That she'd come back inspired, recharged, maybe even loving. But then she stopped answering my calls. Not all at once, no, she was smarter than that. At first it was delays. Then missed calls. Then texts, sorry. Crazy day. We'll call later 20. The kisses started to vanish. Eventually, I was texting myself. That's when I did it. I didn't tell anyone, not my brother, not my best friend, not even my therapist. I opened an incognito tab and searched for a private investigator in Portland. Found a guy with a badge tattoo on his neck and Yelp reviews that used phrases like no nonsense and won't sugarcoat. I gave him the address of the retreat. Her name. The dates. Told him I didn't want drama. Just the truth. He said he'd have something by the end of the week. What he gave me instead was a hammer to the ribs. She wasn't at a retreat. Not the whole time, at least. She was registered. She attended workshops. She even read her poetry at one of their stupid bonfire nights. But she wasn't sleeping in the bunkhouse with the other writers. She wasn't alone. She was spending her nights in town. In a rental house under a different name. With someone else. The PI sent me photos. I didn't want to look. But I did. There she was, my wife, wearing that same sundress I bought her for our anniversary. Leaning against a man I'd never seen before. Laughing. Her hand wrapped around his wrist like they'd been doing that forever. She looked happy. Relaxed. That kind of smile she hadn't worn around me in months. And that's when something inside me turned. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone or break a single thing. I just felt weightless. Like everything had snapped loose from the bolts that kept it real. I booked a storage unit that night. I moved out of our house over the next 3 days. Took only what was mine. Left the keys, the ring, and a single note folded neatly on her pillow. You'll find everything where you left it. Except me. I didn't wait for her flight. Didn't answer the calls when she finally realized something was off. I vanished. She walked back into a house that no longer belonged to anyone. I didn't go far. Just enough distance to breathe. Rented a short-term apartment across the city. Industrial loft, high ceilings, no memories. The kind of place that echoes when you drop a spoon. I liked that. Silence that doesn't pretend to be anything else. For 3 days, my phone didn't stop vibrating. Calls, voicemails, texts that started with confusion and spiraled into panic. Then rage. Then that sticky kind of fake concern she used to reserve for customer service reps and people she wanted something from. Where are you? Jake, this isn't funny. Why is your stuff gone? What the hell is going on? Call me back right now. I didn't respond to a single one. Not until the 4th night, when she showed up outside my brother's house screaming at the porch light like it owed her answers. I got a text from him while I was in line for takeout. She's here, losing it, wants to call the cops. So I drove over, slowly. No rush. Let her sweat in the humidity, pacing the sidewalk, still wearing the lie she'd lived in for weeks. When I pulled up, she turned so fast I thought she might dislocate her neck. Her mouth opened, ready to unload something rehearsed, probably dramatic. I didn't give her the chance. You were never in the woods, I said before I even killed the engine. Not the whole time. You lied. You planned it. And you made me the idiot who bought you snacks for the trip. She blinked. Once. Twice. Her jaw clenched. Then she laughed. Laughed. Are you serious right now? That was her first sentence. Not denial. Not apology. Not even a question about how I found out. Just that, an insult wrapped in disbelief. I have pictures, I said, stepping out of the car. Of you and him. The house. The dinners. The way you touched him like I never existed. And there it was. That flicker. The brief, tiny twitch in her left eye. Recognition. But still, no remorse. So what? She snapped. I needed a break. You're the one who's been impossible lately. Everything is about you. Your routines. Your silence. Your perfect little structure. I couldn't breathe in our life anymore. You could have told me, I said. Calm. Too calm. Instead of building a lie and hiding in someone else's bed while I was watering your damn snake plant. She crossed her arms, leaned back like she was the one owed something. I was going to. When I got back. But then you pulled this whole disappearing act like you're some mystery novel protagonist. Grow up, Jake. Grow up. That's what she said. Not I'm sorry. Not I made a mistake. Not I hurt you. She threw the grenade and got mad I left before it exploded. My brother stood silently in the doorway, arms crossed, watching her like she was a car wreck on his front lawn. I didn't look back. I walked past her, into his house, and closed the door behind me. She pounded on it for 10 full seconds before storming off into the night, shouting something I didn't care enough to decipher. And that was the last time I saw her face in person. What followed was a week of silence again, but not sharp this time. Hollow. Limp. I think even she knew it was done. But she wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Because then she tried to rewrite the story. She started small. At first, it was just whispers, mutual friends reaching out, confused, cautious. Hey, Maddie says you had some kind of breakdown? She mentioned you left in the middle of the night without a word. Are you okay? I didn't answer most of them. The few I did, I gave nothing. Let them chew on the silence. But then it escalated. 3 days after the confrontation at my brother's place, my inbox started filling up with forwarded emails. Screenshots. Snippets of her new narrative. She was fast. Calculated. She crafted the kind of story that makes people nod with sympathy and squint with suspicion, never quite sure what the truth is but too polite to say it. According to her, I abandoned her. Said I had been cold for months, emotionally distant, unstable. Claimed I packed my bags without a word and vanished because I couldn't handle her success. She even threw in the line, he always hated when I was happier without him. I laughed when I read that one. Not a haha laugh. A breathy dead one. The kind you let out when a part of you realizes someone you loved studied your weaknesses just so they could weaponize them later. Then came the real kicker. She told people I made up the affair. Said I hired some backwoods creep with a camera to stalk her. That I'd been spiraling, that the retreat had security concerns because of my obsession. She made herself the victim. Wrote it like a monologue. Hell, I bet she even workshopped it with the guy she'd been seeing. Polished every word until it sparkled just right. I called the PI. Told him what she was saying. He didn't flinch. You want me to go public with the photos? He asked. Because I've got plenty. And timestamps. But I didn't. Not yet. I wasn't going to play her game. I wanted her to twist. So I waited. Sat in the shadows of my own life, watching the threads she pulled start to snap back. Because the thing about lies is they rot. Slowly. From the inside out. And the people who want to believe you will until they don't. 2 of her friends messaged me privately. Not apologies. Not full confessions. But questions. Jake, what really happened? That's when I dropped the first bomb. Not everything. Just one photo. Her holding hands with him, standing outside the rental house in front of a mailbox with his last name. No caption. No explanation. Just the truth. They went quiet after that. The next day, Maddie called me. First time I heard her voice since the parking lot showdown. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her tone slick with frustration masquerading as concern. "I don't know what you think you're doing, but this isn't helping anyone. You're embarrassing yourself. If you want to talk like adults, call me back. Otherwise, stop trying to ruin my life just because you couldn't control it." I saved the message. Didn't reply, because what she didn't know, what she hadn't figured out yet, was that I was done trying to win. Now I was just making sure she lost. I didn't plan revenge. Not exactly. I didn't sit in a dimly lit room stroking a cat and laughing like a cartoon villain. But there's a certain power in knowing someone is frantically trying to control a story they no longer own. She thought her lies were enough, that if she said them loud enough, long enough, people would stop asking questions. But the problem with weaving a narrative around someone who's not playing along is it starts to unravel on its own. The second bomb came on a Wednesday. I mailed a small, neatly packaged envelope to her publisher. No threats, no drama, just facts. The photos, the rental address, copies of the PI's invoices, a copy of her workshop schedule showing the nights she wasn't accounted for. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. I know what you're thinking. Why the publisher? Because she'd been bragging to everyone that her novel was being picked up for early consideration. Her affair partner? One of the junior editors on staff, a guy with just enough influence to be reckless and just enough ego to think no one would notice. Turns out the publishing house did notice. I never got a direct reply, but I didn't need one. A week later, she posted a cryptic, half-hearted, taking a break from writing to focus on personal growth message on her social media. Comments were turned off. Her exciting deal vanished like it had never been real. That was the first real hit she took. And it was just the beginning. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet. No posts, no rants, no trashing her publicly. I just lived. I reconnected with old friends. Spent real time with people who didn't ask me to explain myself. Even Cooper, our dog, stayed with me. She didn't even ask for him, not once. Like he was just another prop she could leave behind when the lights went down. Then came the most unexpected twist. Her affair partner reached out to me. His name was Eric. I'd never said his name aloud. Seeing it flash across my screen made my stomach twist, like biting into something familiar only to realize it's gone bad. "Jake, I think we should talk." I stared at the message for 20 minutes before replying. "What exactly do you think we have to talk about?" He responded almost instantly. "She lied to me too." Of course she did. He didn't know she was married when they met. She told him she was separated, said I was controlling, said the retreat was a fresh start from a toxic marriage. He bought it, bought all of it, until I sent that envelope, and someone from legal sat him down and showed him the fallout. "I didn't sign up for this," he said during the one phone call we had. "I thought she was different." I almost felt bad for the guy. Almost. He asked if I wanted to meet. I said no. I told him whatever he thought we could fix between us didn't exist. I didn't need closure from the guy who played house with my wife while I watered her plants and folded her laundry. But I thanked him for confirming that she hadn't just betrayed me. She had built a bonfire of lies, and now she was watching the smoke rise. And still I wasn't finished, because she hadn't called my parents yet. But she would. And when she did, I made sure they were ready. My mother's voice was steady when she called me. But I could hear the tension stretched tight beneath her words, like a violin string just shy of snapping. "She called," Mom said, not even bothering to say her name. I didn't answer at first, but she left a voicemail, then tried again. So I picked up. I was already sitting down, but I sat deeper. "She said you've been struggling," she continued. "That she's worried about you. That you're shutting people out and she doesn't know what else to do." There was a pause. I didn't believe a single word. I exhaled long and slow. "She's rewriting the past," I said. "I know. That's why I told her not to call here again." My parents had never been the meddling type. They believed in privacy, in letting adults live their own consequences. But this was different. This wasn't a messy breakup or even a marriage unraveling under normal wear. This was calculated. Cruel. She kept saying things that didn't line up, Mom added. Like she was trying to plant doubt. But we raised you, Jake. I know what a lie sounds like. It hit me then how much she'd underestimated everyone. She thought she could charm her way through this like she had with editors, friends, even Eric. But families? Mine wasn't built for performance. They weren't warm to people who spun stories to escape their own messes. I'm sorry you had to deal with her, I said. Don't apologize for her, Mom snapped. You didn't invite this. That night, I opened the drawer beside my bed, pulled out the last of the things I hadn't gotten rid of, her wedding band. She'd taken it off during the retreat, claimed it interfered with her process. I found it tucked into the zipper pouch of her old travel bag. No ceremony, no explanation, just another discarded truth. I stared at the ring for a long time. Not because I missed her. I didn't. I missed who I thought she was. That's a different kind of ache. It fades quicker. I made a decision. The next day, I boxed up everything that belonged to her. Every book, every framed photo, every hoodie she left hanging on the back of a door. I packed it with precision, labeled it "Return to Sender." And I sent it all to her sister's house, someone I knew she hadn't lied to yet. Someone who could see it for what it was, an ending. No note, no dramatic bow. Just silence. The kind I chose this time. It didn't take long for her to react. She texted me that night. So that's it? You're just done? No conversation? No chance to even fix this? She didn't mean it. She didn't want to fix anything. She just wanted control back. She wanted the upper hand she'd fumbled. But she wasn't playing with the same person anymore. She didn't realize the man she left behind in June had burned with the lies she carried out of our house. I didn't reply. I let her sit in that silence. But I knew she wasn't going to stop. Because women like her never end things. They just leave the wreckage for someone else to clean up. And the next wreckage was about to be hers. It came sooner than I expected. Friday morning, I got a call from a blocked number. I never answer those, but something told me to pick up. Maybe curiosity. Maybe instinct. Or maybe it was the faint anticipation that the next fracture in her perfect little lie was about to appear. Is this Jake? A voice asked. Female. Stern. Measured. Yes. This is Caroline Holt. I'm an advisor at Ridgewell Press. I oversee external relations and author integrity compliance. I believe you sent us some documents. I sat up straighter. She didn't sound angry. Didn't sound particularly interested in pleasantries either. I did. I wanted to let you know, she said, your concerns were taken seriously. There has been an internal review. Ms. Wells is no longer under contract with us. Effective immediately. That name, Ms. Wells. It sounded foreign now. Like something from an alternate reality I had walked out of and locked behind me. She used our platform to advance personal relationships that compromised editorial impartiality, Caroline continued. And several elements of her proposal were embellished, including claims about her marital status. Of course they were. She'll likely tell people she walked away, she added. But you deserve to know the truth. I didn't gloat. I didn't ask for details. I just said thank you, and that was the end of the call. But it wasn't the end of the story. Not yet. By noon, Maddie had posted again. A black and white selfie. Teary-eyed. Captioned, sometimes the industry breaks you before it builds you. I've made the difficult decision to step away from Ridgewell to protect my peace and recenter my voice. Protect her peace. She said it like she was the one being hunted. Like she hadn't orchestrated her own downfall with a stack of small, deliberate betrayals. But it didn't end there. Because people had questions now. Writers she'd mentored, friends she'd misled, even readers who had pre-ordered a book that would never hit shelves. The comments weren't turned off this time. Maybe she thought she could still spin it. She couldn't. The first few were sympathetic. But then came the ones she didn't expect. What happened to the novel? Wasn't your husband your first reader? You said you were divorced last year? And then, like wildfire, someone posted the rental listing. Same dates as the retreat. Same town. A blurry image of the house with a caption. Not a retreat. Just a summer with someone else's man. I didn't post it. I didn't need to. The web she spun was collapsing under its own weight. And I watched it all from the sidelines with a stillness she'd never understand. That weekend, Eric messaged me again. One line this time. She told me you were violent. Took me a full minute to respond. Of course she did. He never replied after that. And that was the moment it crystallized. This wasn't just about the affair, or the lies, or the reputation she tried to build on borrowed trust. This was about something deeper, a rot, a fundamental selfishness that let her sleep next to someone she was betraying and still wake up feeling justified. She didn't want forgiveness. She wanted to be untouchable. So I made her visible instead. And soon I'd make sure she stayed that way. It started with a podcast. Not mine, I don't talk into microphones. But someone else's. A mid-tier literary podcast run by a pair of editors who liked drama a little too much and gossip even more. They'd had Maddie on before, back when she was still the rising voice of emotional realism and half-cooked essays about grief and female rage. This time, they brought her up without her being there. It was episode 214, when writers burn bridges and themselves. I wouldn't have known, but someone sent it to me. Not a close friend. Just a guy I met once at a publishing event years ago. The subject line read, "You might want to hear this." So I did. The host started dancing around the topic. A recent scandal involving a once promising author. Allegations of professional misconduct and personal deception. Then one of them dropped the name. Not hers. Mine. Her ex-husband, Jake, apparently gathered receipts. Like, literal receipts. Photos. Timelines. Sent it all to her publisher. They dropped her. Boom. The other one laughed. Imagine being exposed by the guy who bought you a writing desk. I didn't laugh. I didn't need to, because for the first time in months, I wasn't the one drowning in her wake. She was paddling now, wild, graceless strokes, and the current wasn't letting her go. The next day, she emailed me. Subject: enough. Body, you've made your point. You got what you wanted. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it. I hope you feel like a man again. You always needed to be the hero, didn't you? Well, you won. So leave me alone now. No salutation. No name. Just that. Bitter and empty and still trying to cut. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. I crossed a line somewhere along the way. Not into cruelty, but clarity. I didn't want revenge. Not really. I just wanted the noise to stop. The lies. The twisting. The rewriting. I wanted truth to stand up without me holding its hand. So I replied. Short. Cold. Final. You did this to yourself. I just refused to let you bury me with it. She never responded. But 2 days later, her Instagram went dark. All posts gone. Bio wiped. Nothing left but a blank avatar and a broken link to a now-defunct blog. She had finally disappeared. But unlike me, she didn't leave a note. People still reached out sometimes. Some to gossip, some to apologize for not seeing it sooner. I didn't entertain most of them. The ones who mattered already knew. My brother, my mom, the PI who'd sent me the first truth like a loaded bullet. They had all watched it unfold. Quiet soldiers in a war I never asked for. But now the battlefield was empty. And something unexpected was waiting in the silence. Peace came in the mail of all things. An envelope. No return address. Handwritten. Real ink. The kind of old-fashioned touch she always claimed to adore when she was still pretending to be a person who felt things deeply. Inside, a single sheet of thick stationery, folded once. Her handwriting, still sharp, slanted, aggressive even in cursive. You destroyed everything. No greeting, no apology, just that. Then, beneath it, almost as an afterthought, I loved you in my own way. You just never understood me. I laughed out loud. Actually startled myself. Not a mocking laugh. Not cruel. Just hollow disbelief. The kind of laugh that escapes when you see someone flailing in water they dove into themselves and still have the nerve to scream that you pushed them. I loved you in my own way. She wrote that like it was a justification. As if her own way could possibly excuse the mess she'd made. The deception. The months of gaslighting. The rewriting of our history one bold lie at a time. You don't love someone by pretending they don't exist. You don't love someone by vanishing into another man's arms and leaving breadcrumbs of guilt behind you to cover your trail. You don't love someone in pieces. But this letter, it was her final act. Not a confession. Not closure. Just one last attempt to flip the script, to make herself the tragic protagonist of a story that was never hers to tell. I didn't write back. I folded the letter, tucked it into the bottom drawer of my desk with everything else I'd collected over those chaotic months. The photos, the receipts, the printed transcripts of her lies, each one marked and annotated like pages of a novel that had gone off the rails. That drawer was full now, and I was done opening it. Instead, I booked a trip. 3 weeks. Coastal Drive. Just me and Cooper. No plans, no destinations. Just roads and air and space. Real space. The kind you don't need to lie about needing. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't post. I didn't explain. I just left. And for the first time in what felt like years, I didn't take the weight of her with me. There were no flashbacks. No imaginary arguments. No phantom buzz of her texts. Just quiet mornings and sun-warmed pavement and the occasional bark from the passenger seat when I forgot to share my sandwich. Somewhere around the third state line, I realized something. She had taken so much from me. My trust, my time, my name in rooms I hadn't even entered. But she never got the part of me that remembers how to rebuild. She scorched the ground and walked away. But I stayed behind and started planting again. There's a specific kind of silence that comes after a storm. Not peace exactly. More like stillness with edges. Like the world's holding its breath, waiting to see if the damage will echo. That was me, coming back from the trip. My apartment felt different. The same walls, same furniture, but something had shifted in the air. It was no longer a hiding place. It didn't carry her scent. Her ghost didn't live here anymore. I unpacked slowly, one item at a time. No rush, no baggage. Just a man returning to a home that was finally his. The day after I got back, my brother came over. He brought takeout, beer, and that cautious look people wear when they're trying to ask something without reopening wounds. He didn't need to say it. I handed him her letter. He read it twice. Didn't say a word until he folded it back and slid it across the table like it burned. She really doesn't get it, he muttered. She never did. We didn't talk about her after that. Not really. We watched a terrible action movie, argued about whether Cooper needed a second dinner, and laughed at things that had nothing to do with betrayal. That night, I realized healing wasn't a grand, cinematic moment. It was in the ordinary, the absurd, the laughter that didn't feel stolen. But the world, as it turns out, wasn't finished with her. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Not her. Someone else. A journalist. She was writing a piece on ethics in publishing. She'd heard rumors. Anonymous tips. She wanted to confirm some of what had happened between Maddie, the editor, and the fallout at Ridgewell. I asked her one question. Why now? She hesitated, then said, because more names are coming out. She wasn't the only one. Of course she wasn't. People like her never act alone. They find systems with cracks already in them and slip through like water, widening them until the structure caves. I didn't give her everything, just enough. Enough to clarify the truth without making it about revenge. Enough to keep the story clean. The next week, the article dropped. Maddie wasn't named outright, but the details? Unmistakable. Writers started whispering. Her old contacts stopped sharing her work. The forums that once praised her now discussed her like a warning. Don't build a brand on a mask. It eventually slips. She didn't reach out. Not this time. I think she knew there was no one left to manipulate. That drawer in my desk? I emptied it. Tossed the photos. The receipts. Even the letter. I didn't need reminders anymore. I'd won. But it wasn't about victory. It was about clarity. I didn't destroy her. I exposed her. She destroyed herself one selfish decision at a time. And I was finally free. I saw her one more time. It wasn't planned. It wasn't cinematic. It wasn't even particularly dramatic. It was a cold Tuesday morning at a quiet cafe downtown. The kind of place where the windows fog up and people pretend they're alone even when they aren't. I was picking up coffee. She was sitting by the window, alone, wrapped in a gray coat too expensive for the mood she wore. She didn't see me at first. I stood there for a second, watching her stare into her phone, like she was willing it to bring her back to something she'd lost. Her hair was different, straighter, less color, like she was trying to erase herself 1 inch at a time. Then she looked up. For half a second, our eyes met. Just half a second. And in that brief flicker, I saw everything she wanted me to see. Regret, sadness, maybe even some hollow attempt at softness. But I also saw the same thing I'd seen the day she left for the retreat. Calculation. That quiet, practiced performance she'd always relied on to pull people back in. I didn't wave. I didn't nod. I didn't do anything. I just turned and walked out. That was the ending. Not a confrontation. Not a breakdown. Just distance. Clean. Wordless. The way you leave a museum after seeing a painting that used to move you. Only now you see the brush strokes, the flaws, the imitation of depth. Outside, the air felt clearer. I walked to the park with my coffee and sat on a bench. Cooper trotted at my feet, sniffing around like the world had only ever been kind to him. I watched people move around me. Real people. Whole people. Not the illusions I used to fall for. And I thought about what I'd say to someone in my shoes. Someone still staring at red flags they're too scared to call what they are. Here it is. If you ever feel like you're being rewritten in someone else's story, leave. If they start building a version of you that only fits the lies they tell, burn that version down. And if you ever find yourself loving someone who's already halfway out the door with a bag full of justifications and a head full of rehearsed apologies, let them go. You're not their editor. You're not their rewrite. You're the one holding the pen. That summer, she went looking for space. Said she needed air. What she really needed was someone new to believe her fiction. And I found truth. It was jagged, ugly, unforgiving. But it was mine. And in the end, that's what saved me. Story ends here.